Great, welcome to roundtable number 2 on recruiting, growing, and training a COO. If we could get everybody just to move kind of into the middle 2 sections here, just for the filming purposes, and we're going to get started in a second here. So just before we get going, we want to get a sense of why, out of all the 5 roundtables that you chose this afternoon, that you chose this one. And what are you looking to get out of the session so that that can inform what Cameron includes in what he shares this afternoon? So what are some challenges that you're dealing with that you'd really like him to focus some of his presentation on? Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Yeah.
My team is growing, and I've found that I get them started pretty quickly, and then after a while, they don't really know what they're supposed to do, and I don't really know what they're supposed to do anymore. I need to have clear roles and responsibilities. We all are just kind of like, hey, we're in this together, and we'll do what needs to be done. But roles, responsibilities, and me giving them better parameters to work within to be more self-starting. I feel like I'm trying to give them very long leashes, and they're asking for very short leashes that I don't have time to micromanage. So that's basically it. Is I've got an amazing team of talented people, and I just am like, okay, go do it. But they're like, do what?
Who else?
I feel like I'm drowning in my business, and I feel like everything has to come from me, everyone's replying back to me, and I've counted out the other day, there's like 23 big projects going on. I was like, no wonder I'm so unfocused. I feel like I'm bottlenecking my business.
Cool. Thanks. Can I scale it? It's more on the recruiting side, so I don't have yet. So to clearly identify what is that truly need.
So I just hired my COO like a week ago, and I'm excited and terrified at the same time. And I would love for you to walk. What that looks like.
Wonderful.
If I'm not writing it up, it's already on my list.
So I have, for the last 5 years, I've had what I feel like is a really wonderful COO that does an amazing job, but you just don't know what you don't know. And so it's just learning, like at the highest level, if you have a COO, what can they do for you effectively? Because I just see how far you can take it.
Awesome. Okay.
So I have multiple companies. In a dream world, I only want to deal with one guy. So there's one guy that I've been grooming, training. I'll send you your event soon. But I'm just wondering, where's the limitations? Am I going to need to just get more guys?
Believe it or not, yours is called toilet.
Okay.
I'll get there. That makes no sense to you, but it will when I get there.
I got it. So we have a team of 3. I've tried to get someone in this operations role for a while. I've heard conflicting advice. My zone of genius is intervention, helping people, just change their life on the internal side, and the details are just so taxing. But I've heard, don't hire a COO yet because you're not ready. Promote someone internally, you're looking at a project manager. So I'm trying to figure out, like, my aim in Dan's Golden terms is to be in my unique ability. And I just want someone who's going to come in and kind of handle that. And I don't know if I need to hire somebody outside, if I need to have a project manager, if I need an executive assistant. It's really unclear.
Okay, we'll get there for sure.
I'm interested in how to preserve and actually enhance culture through growth.
Okay. Keep going.
Cam, we're going to go from about 125 employees to close to 300 in a matter of months after an acquisition. Now we're going to be looking for a COO to report into the partners. Are we looking for a yes person, or are we looking for somebody that is going to tell us what we need to be doing in the early days? And I'm talking within the first 365 days, let's say, of them being onboarded.
Okay.
All right, so we got a chock full agenda this afternoon, so please let's show him lots of love. Join me in welcoming Cameron Herold.
funny, the last question was from Michelle Falcon. Michelle's first day at 1-800-GOT-JUNK was my last day. I was the chief operating officer at 1-800-GOT-JUNK. I took them from 14 employees to 3,100 employees system-wide in 6 years. We went from 2 million to 106 million. And on my last day, I think I was walking out of the office crying, and Michelle was walking in going like, why is this guy in tears? So I'll walk you through that transition as well. I've been the chief operating officer 3 times for 3 different brands. So if you're familiar with College Pro Painters, I was really the second in command of that group and opened the West Coast of the United States for them. I was also the COO for 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and I was the second in command for a private currency company that we sold 17 years ago. We had 30,000 companies using our currency instead of the US dollar. So we had Starwood Hotels and Avis Rent-A-Car and Hard Rock Cafe. So we were really a precursor to Bitcoin 17 years ago when we sold that company. And I've been doing that. I recognize that the job of the second in command is really to make the CEO iconic. Right? The CEO's job is to be that beacon, that vision beacon, and the COO's job is to make you look good. And so one of the really most critical things you're looking for that most people miss on, you're looking for the tactical stuff of how do I hire and what do I get them to do. The most important thing is they have to make you look awesome. So we're going to get into some of that stuff as well. I actually started an organization called the COO Alliance. It's the only network of its kind in the world for second in commands. The reason I started it a year ago was there's an infinite number of groups for entrepreneurs. You know, YBO and EO and Vistage and Genius Network and Mastermind Talks and Maverick. It goes on and on and on and on where you can go learn. Cadre, where you can go learn with other entrepreneurs, but you're not the ones actually growing your companies at some point. And there was nowhere for the second in command to grow and learn. So we started a group that's only for them, and this group would not be allowed in the room. It's called the COO Alliance, and it's the only network of its kind in the world for second in command. So once a year, we'll have an event where we'll invite the entrepreneurs to, and at that event, we'll have marriage counselors, personality profiles, and people to work on the actual yin and yang relationship between the CEO and COO. So there's actually about 6 members that are here at Mastermind Talks. Their COOs are in the Alliance as well. So there's an article that came out years ago by Harvard Business Review, and it's called The Misunderstood Role of the COO. And it's a really worthwhile one for you to read. I actually give it to every member of the COO Alliance the day that they join so that they even start to learn about themselves. But Harvard really identified that there's 7 distinct types of chief operating officers. Now I'll give you an example in kind of my view of it. You can have a very outward-facing COO, so someone who's kind of looking out at the market and the economy and kind of seeing what's happening, kind of being out at that strategy level. Or you can have a very inward-facing COO, one who's really looking at inside the company and isn't worried about vision or where we're going. You can have someone who's very sales and marketing focused, someone who's very engineering and process focused, someone who's very operational, someone who's finance focused. So you have to really understand for you, where are you going with your organization? What do you want to find to complement yourself? So really think of it like a marriage. Like you're looking for that partner to not complete you, but to complement you. And then also to allow you to work on your unique abilities, but who can take all the shit off your plate that you're not good at, right? So you're not looking for someone who you necessarily are going to be the same as. You're looking for someone who really complements you and kind of will further complete you. So the first place you're going to start is what we call the scorecard. So Brad and Jeff Smart wrote the book called Top Grade and their second book called Who. You really need to think about what are you hiring for? So in the first 12 months that you had your COO, could you make a list of the 5 big things they would have to get done? And if they got those done, you'd have been thrilled at your decision to hire them. So what would those 5 things be? And then when you're doing your interviewing and recruiting and looking to bring these people in, what you want to look for is, have they done it before? You're not looking for people that have the theory, you're looking for people that have the actual experience. So as an example, when I built 1-800-GOT-JUNK, for the first 5 years I was building it, I'd done virtually everything we were doing. So Brian, the founder, hadn't done it before, but I'd done it, so it was easy for me. Now, if you look for someone that had the theory, like some MBA who studied it, that doesn't mean they've actually done it. Studying customer service and running customer service is very different, right? Someone who's actually hired and fired and managed and built teams is very different from someone who knows how to build teams. So if you're looking for someone to take a company from 2 million to 106 million, why don't you see if you can find somebody who's done it a couple of times? In fact, when I left 1-800-GOT-JUNK, it was time for me to go because they needed someone to take the company from 100 million to $1 billion. I'd never done that before. The person they brought in to replace me was the former president of Starbucks USA. Right? She walked in and went, wow, what a cute little company. And I'm like, fuck, it's big. So think about what you need to get done and hire someone who's done it. Brian made a critical mistake on that one though. I thought it was a perfect hire, but he hired someone who culturally didn't align with him. He fired her 12 months later, including the CFO on the same day, because they were conspiring to take over the company. You have to find someone who you trust on day one with your bank account, someone who you trust on day one with your kids, someone who you trust on day one with your public persona, someone who you would literally give email access to. And that means if you're having an affair, they gotta know. Like, they have to know everything about you. Everything good, everything bad. You have to be prepared to share that with them on day one. Otherwise, don't hire them. It's like your spouse, right? You just have to put that person in place. So you're looking first on what do they need to get done. Yeah? Let's do questions after if we can, unless it's like so burning critical. Second thing you're looking for are the behavioral traits. So what do you need? How do you describe this person's kind of character behavioral traits? And what would maybe the 5 core behavior traits be? So leadership, goal orientation, precision. Think about exactly how you would describe them. One of the other big reasons why it was time for me to leave 1-800-GOT-JUNK was Brian and I were both very ADD. We were both very bipolar. So the attention to detail was getting hard. When we have 3,000 employees and operating in 330 cities in 4 countries and 46 states, it's just freaking big, 13 operating companies. And I didn't have the attention to detail, neither did he. And he finally needed a COO who could actually pay attention to the stuff that he wasn't good at. So again, look for yourself and say, what are you hiring to complement you? And make sure that you're hiring for that or recruiting for that as well. Next thing is you really, really, really have to do your reference checks on this person. Okay? I want you to know the day that they start, you need to know everything about them. Like everything. So that there's not a single surprise afterwards. Brian's current COO, who's been with him for about 5 years now, is a guy that I've known for 30. We recruited a guy that I started a fraternity with in 1987, 30 years. Right, so we knew so much about Eric to come into a company that I'd been gone from a few years before he even hired this person, but he'd done his reference checks, he'd done his background checks, he really knew who this person was. So make sure that you really spend time on that. I really need you to also ask yourself, is it really a COO that you're hiring? And I'm going to pick on you for a second. You have 4 employees. Do you know that 20 years ago, to have a C-level title in a company, you had to be a major fucking player in a major fucking company. Now you're giving out chief operating officers to people with how many employees?
Well, we need 6, but
6 people, and you have a C-level title. So what happens is, the higher your title is, you cause this title inflation with everybody. So now you're going to have somebody who's really a call center person.
frankly, I call it an ops manager.
Okay, then don't ever call her a COO. Don't even tell me you hired a COO. Say you hired an ops manager. Because here's what happens. The optics change, the people's perception change, and all of a sudden it'll either credit you or discredit you. It causes title creep inside your company, and it causes salary inflation in your company. So the day I started at 1-800-GOT-JUNK, Brian had 6 VPs, 6 people in the call center, and him. 5 of the VPs didn't even have any direct reports, but they all wanted $100,000 plus salaries. A true COO, if it's really a chief operating officer, is around $300,000 a year. If you're not prepared to pay that, don't give them that title. Go down to a VP of operations title. From VP operations, go down to a director of operations, or a general manager, or an ops manager. Right? Dave Asprey, one of my clients who I coached, who owns Bulletproof Coffee, just hired a COO to run Bulletproof. I won't tell you his revenues, but they're big. But she was the former head of Amazon Prime. She's a fucking total player, but she's a COO, full on, right? He doesn't even live in the same city where his head office is. Like, she's running his company with about close to 100 employees, right? So be very careful that you don't over-title. And this isn't just you. I see it all the time, and it drives me crazy. Because what will happen is your employees are going to start looking around and saying, well, I'm not getting paid what other people are getting paid. Well, you're not really a COO. And then what happens is all of a sudden your CFO, who's really more of a controller, now they want 250 grand a year because you're only worth 80. So really give out the titles commensurate with what you're actually willing to pay and what the job and the duties really are. Next thing is, who here has put up your hand if you have an executive assistant. Okay, put your hand up if you do not have one. That's easy for me. Okay, before you hire a COO, hire an executive assistant. If you don't have an executive assistant, you are one. okay? And I want you to hire, here's why I want you to hire an executive assistant. Like the guy, what's the guy with the Star Wars hat? Maston. So I'm gonna save you $250,000 this year.
Yeah.
If you hire an EA for the next 6 to 8 months, you won't have to pay a COO salary. You'll free up about 50% of your time, get email off your plate, get all the stuff worth less than $50 an hour off your plate. Like start delegating all the stuff that is cheap or you don't like or you suck at off your plate. It'll save you about 6 to 12 months of actually hiring a COO. That's a huge amount of money to put in sales and marketing or in your pocket. So be very careful that you don't overhire too quickly. And the executive assistant role is going to be way more powerful than hiring a COO because you're going to need an EA at some point as well. Make sure that you're really clear on what the roles and goals are for each of you at this point. So it's kind of like my wife and I joke about pink jobs and blue jobs, but we don't really do the pink jobs and blue jobs. Like I'm really horrible around the house at anything to do with anything with our house. Like I don't understand plumbing and electrical and the contractors, so all the guy jobs, except taking out the garbage, she does. Right? Like she even barbecues. I hate barbecuing. But I'm good at like making the money, and then she's good at the house stuff. But think about inside of your business. What are you really good at, and what do you get really energized from? Dan Sullivan's unique ability idea. And then what do you suck at, and what drains you? And make sure that you hire someone, if you're hiring a COO, to get all the stuff off your plate that drains you or you're not good at, but that they love to do. Right? Remember, there's people out there who actually love finance. I hate it. There's people out there who love IT. I can't stand it. So hire somebody. If I was hiring a COO, they would have to love finance and love IT and take some stuff off my plate that maybe I'm not great at, like the detail stuff. Right? You don't want someone who totally loves what you do. You want someone who thinks what you do is horrible. Like I want a COO who hates speaking events, who hates being the front person of the company, who can't stand being on stage, but they love the stuff that I don't like. So think about that as well. Next part is what are the core goals for each of you, for you and for them over the next 12 months, and communicate those to your whole company. So all the employees are now really clear on what your responsibilities are and what their responsibilities are, and they can really see clearly on the org chart who actually reports to who. So you know what your clear kind of direct responsibilities are and who your dotted line responsibilities are. So then you get down to onboarding. So when you're hiring a COO, if you're hiring a really good person, you've hired based on what you needed to do because they've done it before, and you're hiring the behavioral traits that they need, and you've done all the reference checks, the reality is they're going to be really good at their job. So in the first 90 days that they join you, don't worry too much about them. Pretend that they're a big boulder that you're dropping into a pond. What happens when you drop a boulder into the pond? What's that? Splash. Splash, after splash. Ripples, right? The ripple effects. After you hire a COO, your job is to watch for the ripple effects. They're a boulder. They will get to the bottom of the pond, but that's their job. They'll do it successfully. But all the ripple effects, if you don't keep your eye on them, are huge. Ripple effects with customers, with systems, with projects being started. Dave Asprey lost one of his key marketing people within a week of him hiring his COO because the marketing person felt that he was threatened all of a sudden, so he bailed. It was actually okay because we didn't want to keep him, but that's a quick ripple effect, right? Make sure that you're very, very close to what's happening with the rest of your company, with your customers, your suppliers, your finance people, your lawyers, your accountant, your banker, because you just don't know what's happening with the ripples. Watch for good ripple effects and bad ripple effects. Then think about the onboarding. Really resist the urge in the first 2 to 4 weeks of letting the person do their job. Resist the urge of letting them do their job. So if I was hiring someone to come in to work in a restaurant bar group, anybody here from Toronto, by the way? There's a secret bar that you're not supposed to know about, but there's a password, he'll get it for you. It changes every day. But if you're going to hire somebody to go into that, I would want someone who's like, I want them working behind the bar. I want them waiting tables. I want them working in the kitchen. I want them working outside of the door. I don't want anybody to know they're a COO for the first 2 weeks. And I want them literally doing every freaking job in the company. I want them going through training. I want them like handling food prep. I want them meeting with suppliers and unloading trucks. I want them to see and feel every aspect of the company before they're doing their COO job, right? Because they got to really get it. We want them around that whole culture. So at 1-800-GOT-JUNK, we had people ride in the trucks, go through franchise training, listening on phone calls with customers, listening on phone calls with suppliers, listening on phone calls with PR, stand on the street corner and wave at traffic. We literally had them do every single thing we could have them think about for 4 weeks, and then they got to start the job. And And that's critical if you do that, because then they'll really be integrated in the company. You need date nights, very similar to a marriage, where you need to have time in your calendar, so as the CEO and the COO to actually spend time together. And most of the entrepreneurs are like, yeah, I don't need that. It's not for you, it's for them. They need it. They need to get up to speed, they need to build trust, they need to slow you down a little bit, they need to listen to you and take the ideas out of your head and then put them somewhere safe for you. And then your job is not to start things anymore. It's to give them your ideas and trust that they'll put them into a system, and once a quarter you can vote on which ideas get started. But they'll keep track of your ideas. But you can't start anything once you hire a COO. Everything has to go through them. It goes into the plan. And it's very similar like building a house. Let's say you were building a home and you're the homeowner. Now imagine the homeowner, if we were putting in the framing and doing the electrical and the plumbing, imagine the homeowner coming in and installing the Wolf stove. You'd be like, what are you doing? I'm putting the stove in. Well, wait, we need like another 6 more weeks. Yeah, but I want to put the stove in. All right, let's put up the cabinets. We haven't got the drywall in yet. There's sheetrock and a little paint. And we put, yeah, but I like the cabinets. Entrepreneurs are all about the big shiny object stuff. And once you hire a COO, you need to start running the stuff through them. They'll take care of your ideas, they'll start it the right way, but they'll protect you from yourself, and they'll actually start to scale the company up for you. I really highly recommend you use a search firm. I've got a couple of them if you want introductions. They're very under the radar. One only does $400,000 plus roles, and I've got 2 that actually will do mid-level to senior roles, but you really need to poach a COO. You don't put a job posting up on Craigslist and get the former head of Amazon Prime to see it. She's not looking for a job. It's a search firm that reaches out and says, hey, I've got an interesting opportunity that I think you might be interested in. Can we meet for coffee? The A players are never looking for jobs. They're certainly not going to hear about yours, and you have to post them. And you probably don't have the depth internally to do it, so you really want to engage a firm. It's really worthwhile. And then last thing is this isn't a pitch for the COO Alliance, but it is, get them involved in the COO Alliance. It's the only network where they're actually going to be able to learn together and from each other and with each other. It's kind of like the community that we have here where we get to actually have that shared brain trust. Imagine that shared brain trust where you've got a couple of hundred other chief operating officers and they get to meet every quarter with each other and from each other. So those are my kind of thoughts on the basic stuff. We can get into this and then we'll take some Q&A. So roles and responsibilities, I talked a little bit about that. The managing part is when you need everything to get into an operating plan. So your role as the entrepreneur and the CEO is really to talk about the vision, right? The vivid vision. I covered it in my first book, Double Double, but I've also brought copies of, if anybody was here last year, remember when Hal Elrod and I talked about the fact we were launching a book together? This is the book Hal and I talked about last year that just came out, The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs. So I've got about 30 copies here for you, some over here, there's some up here if anybody wants them. In this, we talk about the vivid vision concept. Your job as the entrepreneur is to craft a 4 or 5 page document describing the future of your company and what it looks like. And then your team can figure out how to make that happen. Whether there's a session after this, Jason Atkins is running on culture. When he heard about this concept 3 years ago, he left the session from Mastermind Talks, took an entire day off, worked with the designer to write his vivid vision. Like he literally left Mastermind Talks for a full day to do his vivid vision. He's gone from about 4 million to 50 million in 3 years. And it was in his vivid vision that he'd do 50. So your job as the entrepreneur is to clarify your vision and where you're going, not to worry about how anymore. You actually don't have to be the one putting these systems in place. What you have to do is know that there's certain systems that you need, and then require the COO to get them in place, but put them in place like you build a home. The foundational stuff first, then the walls, then the plumbing, and then up from there.
Cameron, we cast our vivid vision in January.
Yeah.
What I guess strategy or recommendations do you have to like keep that alive and keep the team updated?
Great.
On that.
Yeah, so I covered it in both this book here, in Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, but here's the basics of it. Your vivid vision is this 4 or 5 page document describing your company. Every quarter you want all your employees to read it. Every quarter you want all your suppliers to read it. Every quarter you want your customers to read it. You give it to potential employees. You read it before every strategy meeting. You read it before every planning meeting. So you're constantly rereading it. And then every quarter highlight any of the sentences that have come true in green. So you have a Word document version to work from. and highlight any of the ones that you're working on in yellow, and you'll start seeing it quarter by quarter become more and more green. Every sentence is a finished state, and figure out 1 or 2 projects to make each sentence come true. It'll make sense once you know what a vivid vision is. So you need to take all of the plans and projects and put them into a plan, like Basecamp or like Asana, so that people can manage it, so you have visibility to all the projects, and you can see which projects are being pushed off or bumped down when you insert all your new cool ideas. Right? So your ideas will be there, but don't start them until they're ready to be finished.